Good afternoon, Cambridge. All right, let's try that again. Good afternoon. Thank you. Thank you. My name is Brian Corr. I work for the City of Cambridge. Thank you. I'm the director of our Peace Commission, an expression of our city's devotion to issues of peace and social justice, building community, and standing strong with our values in the times of difficulty, hatred, sadness, and all the other emotions that we are feeling right now. I know I have no words for what is happening in my country, other than to say, while I'm angry and anxious and sometimes a little scared, I am resolute because I stand with all of you and because all of us stand with Charlottesville for peace and justice and equality. This afternoon, we stand in front of our City Hall in solidarity with Charlottesville, but also to support each other, to say boldly and clearly that the fear, divisiveness, and intolerance that we have seen in our nation are not our values, and we will do everything we can to ensure that the values that we hold dear of love and peace and justice prevail across this nation of ours. My role today is primarily to introduce some of our community leaders who've come out to stand with you and share a few words about our city's commitment and about our support of each and every one of you. So with no further ado, I wish to introduce our mayor, E. Denise Simmons.
Thank you, each of you and all of you for coming out to show a sense of camaraderie, collegiality, and community for our sisters and brothers in Charlottesville. It's a pleasure to stand up with you. I am sorry that we have to. I am sorry that we live in a place where hatred and racism and bigotry has found roots and is growing. I stand here with my colleagues, the Vice Mayor, Mark McGovern. I stand here with Councilor Carlone and Councilor Devereaux and Councilor Kelly. I stand here with our members of the school committee who protect our children, Kathleen Kelly, Fred Fantini, and Richard Hardy. I stand here with State Senator Sal DiDomenico. I stand here with Representative Marjorie Decker and Mike Connolly. I stand here with you. I stand here with you, and I stand up with you. We can no longer it's becoming an everyday occurrence that we are responding to acts of cruelty in our country. It has become a far too common exercise here in Cambridge. You know, I want to thank Brian Corr, because when I called him, I said, we need to do this vigil. He said, please, call me. And he gathered us all together. So thank you, Brian, for doing this for us and bringing us all together. When I called the city manager, he said, yes, I will be with you because this is too important. We cannot stand silent. We cannot be quiet. We have to be outraged. We have to be angry. But then we have to turn that outrage and anger into positive action. We have to send a message to someone who just doesn't get it, that hate has no place in this country. Hate has no place in Charlottesville. As I was reflecting on the events of this past weekend, I was reminded by a quote by the late Dr. King, and he says, we must learn to live together. We must learn to live together, or we will perish together as fools. We are tied in a single garment of destiny, caught in an inescapable network of mutuality. And whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. So what has affected our friends, our families, our comrades, our neighbors, our brothers, our sisters in Charlottesville affects us right here in Cambridge. These words were said by the late Dr. Martin Luther King 2-3 decades ago. And you would think, you would hope we were past that. But over the weekend, the eyes of the country were once again drawn to an unspeakable scene that played out hundreds of miles away, a scene of ugliness, of chaos, a scene of violence, a scene that's anathema to the ideals of this very heart of our society, of what we live, breathe, and do here in Cambridge. We saw the very worst elements come up out the ground, that spirit of hatred, bigotry, racial animosity, and intolerance. In a country founded over 2 centuries ago on the notion that we are all created equal, that we are still those that cling to that notion that they are somehow better because of the color of their skin. There are still those who are so misguided that cling to the idea that the only way up is to put someone else down. There are still those who are so devoid of empathy and understanding of basic human decency that they would rather gather as they did in Charlottesville in order to denounce the concept of racial inequality. Now, this is very ironic. In a city named after Queen Charlotte, who was a woman of African ancestry, fact check that. In an effort to provoke violence. It's really remarkable to think that in 2017, people are still harboring corrosive thoughts. Yet it is inevitable that there will always be a small band of misguided, misanthropic individuals who have no place in this country. When these white supremacists and these neo-Nazis gather for the public demonstrations that they did in Charlottesville, they inevitably were met by counter-protesters. And why we stand here today are we are counter-protesting. We are saying, not here, not now, not in our country. Fortunately, we are not a country that is blindly led around by national leaders. We are a proud, democratic nation in which the voices of communities all over the country have been swelling up, joining together in solidarity, drawing strength from one another, a far larger and a more meaningful way than any statement coming out of Washington. I call it too little, too late. So tonight, Cambridge is rallying to express our solidarity with the people of Charlottesville, but with peace-loving people and with peace-loving people all over this country. These rallies are taking place all over the country, nationwide, coast to coast. All of us are loudly making one bold declaration. You can test us, you can taunt us, you can prod us, you can strain us, but we will not be broken. We refuse to be taken over by anger. The people of Cambridge are once again coming together to express solidarity with one another, to draw strength from one another, and to remind people about that once famous quote by Dr. King, and that is, and it reads as follows: darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. It is an important line for us to underscore, because the neo-Nazis, the anti-Semites, the white supremacists want us to strike them back with hate. They want us to surrender the moral high ground here in Cambridge and in Boston and New York. And they want chaos and unrest. They want violence and destruction. That is their victory, and we will not give in to them. So as I stand down, so you can hear from the other speakers, I want to just say that we are gathered here to stand strong against hate groups, against the racists, the anti-Semites, the bigots, the zealots. We are, in the words of that song by Andra Day, we are going to rise up. What are we going to do?
Rise up!
Against bigotry, we're going to?
Rise up!
Against racism, we're going to?
Rise up!
Against anti-Semitism, we're going to?
Rise up!
Against hatred, we're going to rise up? And we'll do it 1,000 times again.
Next, I want to bring up the Chief Executive Officer of our city, an amazing leader, Louis DePasquale.
Thank you. Let me just start off by saying, could we be in a better position to have someone like Denise Simmons as the mayor of the city of Cambridge right now? The only problem is I have to follow that speech, and that's impossible. Denise, tremendous job as always. Again, let me start by thanking Mayor Simmons for organizing this event, and thank all of you for being here tonight. We put this together with short notice, but we knew the people would come. So again, thank you. We are here to let the people of Charlottesville know that they are in our thoughts and prayers. We send our condolences to the family and friends of those who died because of this horrific event. I am also here with you, all of you, to show my commitment to the standing up to those who promote fear and intolerance. There is no place for hate in Cambridge, and there is no place for hate in this country. Cambridge is a city that supports all its residents, regardless of their race, gender, creed, sexual preference, gender identity, or immigration status. The discussion and debate of ideas and differing viewpoints is an important right. However, we will not tolerate acts of hatred in this city. My administration will work hand in hand with our elected officials and with the community to ensure that Cambridge remains a welcoming and safe city for all. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Brian. I want to thank the mayor, the city manager, all the elected officials, and most importantly, all of you for being here. It's not the first time that we've gathered for reasons like this, and it sadly isn't going to be the last. But it does say something about this community, that we are willing to come together and rally and not be silent in the face of hatred and bigotry that's coming out of the White House. It's imperative that elected leaders, business leaders, educational leaders, community leaders, citizens from Washington to Cambridge make it crystal clear that neo-Nazi white supremacy is not welcome in this country. This is not about free speech. This is not about all sides have a piece of the blame pie. This is purely about racism, hatred, and inciting violence, and we will not stand for it. So I would like to say to Mr. Trump, and I continue to refer to him as Mr. Trump, I will not call him President Trump until he starts behaving like one. I want Mr. Trump to know that we expect and demand leadership, that we expect and demand that he support the foundation that this country was founded on, that we expect and demand that he stand up against neo-Nazi fascists the way my grandfather did in World War II, who would be turning over in his grave if he saw people saluting as Hitler did on the streets of the United States of America. It is not something we will ever accept. So I thank you all very much for being here. I know we will continue to come. We will continue to show up. We will continue to be heard. And I look forward to a time when we can gather like this to celebrate something, to gather like this to show our respect and love for this country, as opposed to always having to stand up and be heard to push back against intolerance. But until that day comes, we will continue to show up, we will continue to be here, and we will continue to stand with those who are being oppressed in this country. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Mayor Simmons. Thank you, local leaders who have brought us together today to speak out against intolerable acts that are happening in our country. As Brian has indicated, the mission of the YWCA Cambridge and all YWCAs across the United States is the elimination of racism and the empowerment of women. Our values thank you on behalf of our YWCA and our sister YWCAs across the country. Our values, individually and collectively, are rooted in the belief that we should and we must stand up for the rights of people of color against racism, extremism, neo-Nazism, and all forms of white supremacy. Our hearts ache for the families of everyone who died or was injured during the hate-filled, violent protests that characterized the demonstrations in Charlottesville, Virginia over the weekend, especially Heather Heyer. But in spite of our pain, we simply can't shy away from our personal responsibility to speak up, to stand up, to take action, to do our part as a city, as citizens of this city, as individuals, as parents, as teachers, as leaders, as citizens of a wonderful city in a wonderful country. We have to do our part to counteract blatant and subtle, and I underscore subtle, acts of racism, whenever and wherever we encounter them. There simply is no place in our communities for acts of hate, violence, neo-Nazism, or white supremacy. Thank you.
Thank you, Eva. Next, I want to bring up someone who has had many careers in our community, all in service of social justice. A minister, an attorney, an activist, and even a folk singer. But now he wants to offer us a few words in his capacity as a member of the Cambridge clergy. Fred Small.
Thank you, Brian. Like many of you today, I come brokenhearted, but not surprised. Brokenhearted because yet another precious life has been lost and more bodies sorely wounded by someone possessed by hatred. But not surprised. Not surprised because notwithstanding the ideals to which we aspire as a nation, what happened in Charlottesville on Saturday is consistent with our history, back to the founding of the Republic and beyond. Donald Trump did not invent white supremacy. Neither did David Duke, nor Richard Spencer. White supremacy has accompanied the American journey since Christopher Columbus. White supremacy as a system of organized oppression is something all of us live under, and some of us benefit from, whether we will it or not. But white supremacy as an ideology, as a desire, as a longed-for dream, has not been welcome in the White House since the segregationist Woodrow Wilson left office 96 years ago. Until now. Until now. Now it occupies an office in the West Wing, in the person of Steve Bannon, champion of the so-called alt-right. And it occupies a privileged place in the affections and the political base of Donald Trump. I was going to say President Trump, but after hearing Mark McGovern, I'll say Donald Trump. So privileged a place that Mr. Trump can barely form his lips around words denouncing white supremacists. And then only after 2 days of outrage at his equivocation, even from his own party. And then only when those words are carefully scripted by his advisors and shoved in front of him. Not surprised either that it takes the death of a young white woman, Heather Heyer, to get Mr. Trump's attention. Or the attention of the news media, or the attention of many white people who would rather not think about white supremacy even as we enjoy its privileges. But as Dr. King taught us and Mayor Simmons reminded us, we are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. And so I invite us all into the spirit of prayer, or if you don't feel invited by prayer, then into a moment of reflection on our highest values and deepest truths. Spirit of life, Holy One, essence and breath of all that is, help us to perceive the unity in our diversity and the diversity in our unity. May we have the courage to resist, the compassion to understand, and the freedom, the radical freedom to love. Amen. And blessed be.
Thank you, Reverend Small. Boy, these speakers get harder and harder to follow, but they keep doing it. So next, someone who I know is up to the task, another child of Cambridge, minister of her own church, also a pastor, a chaplain to the Cambridge Police Department to help to keep them on the path of the straight and narrow in our city, Pastor Reverend Lorraine Thornhill.
Good afternoon, Cambridge.
Good afternoon.
To Mayor Simmons, Vice Mayor, City Manager, Brian Core, thank you for organizing this unity rally as we stand with Charlottesville and we stand with America, where tolerance should be upheld over prejudice. Education should be valued over ignorance. Freedom should be enjoyed over slavery. And love should be affirmed and celebrated over hate. Yet we stand here today. I don't know about you, but as I addressed my congregation yesterday, I said I am torn between I know I'm supposed to love and be at peace, but I'm angry. Anyone else angry? We have to recognize and speak and say that we are angry. Because when we are angry, then we will rise up. We will no longer sit and tolerate hatred and succumb to the fear and racist and hateful rhetoric of white supremacists, neo-Nazis that have not just been around since this weekend, but have been around for hundreds of years, but now we are rising up. It's time for us to let our light shine. For we truly know that only light can eradicate darkness. And so we must spread love, for we will not match hate for hate. Let us no longer sit on the sidelines as a spectator and watch this great country be torn down into a hateful, fearful place where we look at one another with suspicion, where we can't trust one another no more. We ride the trains and we wonder, is that person gonna hurt me? We walk down the streets and we don't speak to one another. Let us no longer sit on the sidelines and tolerate that. The key is what happens after today. What happens after you walk away from this unity rally? What are you going to do differently? So that we are not here again a month from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, having the same type of talk. We need to do something different. Let us start by even speaking to our neighbors, to the person standing or sitting right next to us. Let us turn and seek the peace and love of a nation, but let us start with seeking the peace and love of our city. Let us go and spread love and light. No longer will we tolerate fear and injustice. So I encourage you today, even as you leave this place today, don't walk in fear, don't walk in hatred, don't walk in intolerance. Whether we disagree, let us disagree to agree, but we will not allow the rhetoric that's coming out of Washington, D.C. that is flowing, and I'll be a little bit ministerial here, flowing from the very pits of hell, hatred, and we are wallowing in it. Let us not take hold of it, but let us speak truth to power.
Somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on far too long. Yes, it's gone on far too long. I tell you, it's gone on far too long. Somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on far too long, and we won't be silent anymore. This song was written by Yara Allen as part of the Moral Monday movement in North Carolina, led by Reverend Dr. William Barber. Somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on far too long. Somebody's hurting my sister, somebody's hurting my neighbor, somebody's poisoning the water, somebody's frightening the children, and it's gone on far too long. I invite you to sing this song with me because we need a movement of empowered people, not a movement of leaders. We got plenty of leaders. We need a mass movement, and we need a singing movement. So please join with me. Somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on far too long. Yes, it's gone on far too long. Yes, it's gone on far too long. Somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on far too long. And we won't be silent anymore. Somebody's hurting my sister. Somebody's hurting my sister, and it's gone on far too long. Yes, it's gone on far too long. I tell you, it's gone on far too long. Somebody's hurting my sister, and it's gone on far too long, and we won't be silent anymore. My neighbor, somebody's hurting my neighbor, and it's gone on far too long. Yes, it's gone on far too long. Yes, it's gone on far too long. Somebody's hurting my neighbor, and it's gone on far too long, and we won't be silent anymore. Somebody's poisoning the water. Somebody's poisoning the water, and it's gone on far too long. Yes, it's gone on far too long. I tell you, it's gone on far too long. Somebody's poisoning the water, and it's gone on far too long, and we won't be silent anymore. Somebody's frightening the children. Somebody's frightening the children, and it's gone on far too long. Yes, it's gone on far too long. I tell you, it's gone on far too long. Somebody's frightening the children, and it's gone on far too long, and we won't be silent anymore. No, we won't be silent anymore. Yara Allen, thank you so much. Thank you for singing.
Excuse me.
So,
before you continue, I just want to say, can we all say together, love, 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 love.
Henry here got on the train with $200. He couldn't see any harm in a friendly game of cards. What if the other men were strangers? And take Joe Collins. He's got a nice wife at home. But he met this girl at the bar, and she looked after the first couple of drinks. There's a good old-fashioned word for people like this. We call them suckers. And there are other people. People who stay up nights figuring out how to take away what they've got. There are all kinds of games. Mike here, for instance. He's got everything in me. He's young, he's healthy, got a job. And he's got plenty of food. Big factories to make things a man can use. Big cities to do the business of a big company. And people. Lots of people. Enough to work the farm and build the factories, dig the mines, and run the business. All kinds of people. People from different countries with different religions, different colored skins. Free people. They can live together and work together and build America together because they're free. Free to vote, to say what they please, go to their own churches, to pick their own jobs. Yeah, Mike's got something, all right. He's got America. But there are guys who stay up nights figuring out how to take that away from him.
I happen to know the facts. Now, friends, I'm just an average American. But I'm an American. And some of the things I see in this country of ours make my blood boil. I see people with foreign money. I see Negroes holding jobs that belong to me and you. Now I ask you, if we allow this thing to go on, what's going to become of us real Americans?
I've heard this kind of talk before, but I never expected to hear it in America.
This fellow seems to know what he's talking about.
What are we real Americans going to do about it? You'll find it right here in this little pamphlet. The truth about Negroes and foreigners. The truth about the Catholic Church.
Do you believe in that kind of talk?
I don't know, makes pretty good sense to me.
And I tell you, friends, we'll never be able to call this country our own until it's a country without. Without what? Yeah, without what? Without Negroes. Without alien foreigners. Without Catholics. Without Freemasons. You know these people.
What's wrong with the Masons? I'm a Mason. Hey, that fellow's talking about me.
And that makes a difference, doesn't it?
These are your enemies. These are the people who are trying to take over our country. Now you know them. You know what they stand for. And it's up to you and me to fight them. Fight them and destroy them before they destroy us. Thank you.
Before he said Masons, you were ready to agree with him.
Well, yes, but he was talking about... What about those other people?
But in this country, we have no other people. We are American people.
What about you? You aren't American, are you?
I was born in Hungary, but now I am an American citizen. And I have seen what this kind of talk can do. I saw it in Berlin.
What were you doing there?
I was a professor at the university. I heard the same words we have heard today. But I was a fool then. I thought Nazis were crazy people, stupid fanatics. But unfortunately, it was not so. You see, they knew that they were not strong enough to conquer a unified country. So they split Germany into small groups. They used prejudice as a practical weapon to cripple the nation. Of course, that was not easy to do. They had to work hard to do it. You see, we human beings are not born with prejudices. Always they are made for us, made by someone who wants something. Remember that when you hear this kind of talk. Somebody is going to get something out of it, and it isn't going to be you.